There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe, be the next reincarnation of Ashura. Hi guys, this is the next part of What if Itachi Uchiha was reincarnated in the world of fairy tale? I hope you enjoy. Make sure you voted on the poll for the next upcoming series. The brilliant light of fairy law lighted up the city with its rays of brilliant light. The source of the light traced back to Magnolia's pride and joy, the fairy tale Guildhall, or what remained of it. Two lone figures stood in a standoff, the dwarf old man who was fairy tale's master, Makarov Drayar, and a man whose very presence felt like one had been swallowed up by an ocean of pure darkness. Madara Uchiha, the ghost of the Uchiha clan, and the ethereal demon of war. Madara smiled condescendingly down at Makarov and his little threat with fairy law. Makarov kept up a brave expression, staring Madara down while charging up the fairy law. "I'm not sure you know of this spell," Makarov asked. His gaze narrowed at Madara, hoping the brilliant light of fairy law would hide away the drops of sweat running down his wrinkly forehead. Madara's smirk widened slightly. "I know of it, yes. Fairy law, correct." Madara's Sharingan eyed the dwarf master, making him feel as if those eyes looked straight into his soul. Then you know what it does. This is a one-hit kill attack. If you don't back down, I will unleash it right here and now, and wipe your miserable existence of the face of the earth," Makarov declared as the light grew stronger, yet Madara didn't even flinch. "Tell me then." Madara took a step towards Makarov, making the old master flinch a little. "If it is a one-kill attack, why do you look so frightened? With an attack like that, dealing with little old me shouldn't be a problem, right?" Makarov gritted his teeth in frustration and carefully moved his hands, needing but one more movement to unleash fairy law. My eyes can see it clearly, you fear me. Not that I blame you, that boy has probably told you all about me, right?" Madara asked, referring to Itachi, to which Makarov took one more step backwards. "I see," Madara uttered, having gotten what he needed as an answer to that question. "Leave," Makarov demanded as his aura of light intensified. "And why would I do that?" Madara slowly walked closer, making Makarov be more on edge. "Otherwise, I will kill you," Makarov threatened, about to make the final move to unleash fairy law. Madara also noticed Makarov avoided direct eye contact with him, without a doubt having taken a few tips from Itachi about how to deal with the Sharingan. To this, however, Madara simply laughed. "Oh, don't worry, when it comes to illusions I prefer to save them for stronger opponents. But against weaklings, I prefer to use my own hands to fight." Makarov flinched at the sudden feeling of bloodlust being unleashed from Madara. "You are one of the 10 wizard saints, aren't you? Well, come on then, show me what one of this country's 10 elite wizards can do." Madara flared up in a dark blue aura, making the space around them tremble as a result. This guy, the bloodlust. Itachi wasn't kidding, this guy is a monster, Makarov thought, and despite his old age and experience, his legs trembled at this sensation. This is Madara Uchiha, a child raised his whole life on the battlefield of war. This is the result, Makarov thought, although a sudden sensation made him widen his eyes. "Oi, what are you spacing out for?" Madara looked down on Makarov, standing right behind him. Makarov stared in disbelief as the Madara before him withered away like rotten wooden log. Before he had a chance to react, Madara kicked him in the back of the head, causing the old master to lose concentration and cancel out fairy law. Makarov was sent flying into the air, and Madara shortly followed, delivering a punch into the old master, sending him into the crumbling ruins of a building. Makarov crawled out from the ruins of the building, clenching onto his chest in pain from a broken rib. What strength, what power, Makarov thought, and then a shadow cast itself over him. Weakly he looked up, and saw Madara looking down on him, looking unamused. Just like any jutsu, any spell has a weakness. In fairy law's case, there are plenty. 1. Disrupt the caster's concentration before he or she charges it up. 2. Cast a powerful illusion onto the caster to either trick him into thinking you are friendly, or make the caster think of himself as the enemy. Madara delivered a kick to Makarov's gut, making him cough up blood. 3. Use speed to kill the caster before he can cast it. Madara then delivered blinding blurs that were punches, from what Makarov felt. The old master couldn't see a thing. Madara's speed was so great that it was like his fist didn't move at all. "I could go on, but I'm sure you got my point. Now, where is the Lumen Histoire? I know your guild knows its location. How do you even know about the Lumen Histoire? And if you knew, why have you only come first now looking for it? Makarov questioned, having guessed it was what someone like Madara was after. Why? Madara repeated the word while stomping his foot onto Makarov's back, pinning him down. It's quite simple. At first I didn't know where it was. Only that it existed. I heard of this legendary power of endless magic from an associate of mine. The Emperor of the Alvarez Empire. I'm sure you are familiar with that nation. They tried to steal it in the past after all. And the Emperor, well, let's say that due to certain circumstances I couldn't make him tell me where it was. You see, he of course wanted it for himself. But he wasn't sure he needed it yet, and he didn't want me to have it either. Makarov struggled to push himself up. He then resulted by turning into a giant to which Madara leapt off of him. The giant Makarov stood tall glaring down on Madara, who held his hands to his hips looking unimpressed by Makarov's display. How did you discover its location? Makarov asked in a booming voice, a voice that would sound threatening to most, yet Madara remained unfazed. Well, you see, you can thank your very own flesh and blood for that. Madara replied with a sinister chuckle. Makarov looked angered and swung his arm behind his back, and then swung it towards Madara, sending rays of light raining down towards him. Madara gracefully jumped over one after the other, looking like he barely put any effort into his movements. Makarov then threw a punch to the ghost of the Uchiha, his very fist bigger than Madara's entire body at this point. Madara raised his right hand, and merely caught Makarov's incoming fist like it was nothing. Weak. Madara flipped his body over Makarov's giant fist. He gracefully landed onto Makarov's wrist and ran up Makarov's arm. Jumping up to the petrified old man's face with a sinister smirk spread across his face, and kneed the giant in the chin, sending him falling back. If you were in my world, you would be considered a cage-level shinobi, I will give you that. Although a cage is nothing compared to me. Madara inhaled his breath, having only formed one hand sign with his right hand. Fire style. Fireball. Madara spat out a giant blazing ball of fire, engulfing even the giant-sized Makarov in the blazing fire. The heat of the fire melted the rubble of the ruined fairy tale guild hall and pushed Makarov into a crater, having reverted to his dwarf-like size. Madara landed before Makarov, grabbed the old man by the throat and lifted him up. Your very own son revealed it to me during the Grand Magic Games. Although not intentionally, he just carelessly mentioned the name Lumen Histoire out loud. Even I heard it through a broadcasting lacrima on the other side of the world. Ivan, Makarov thought of his very own traitor of a son, who he let fall into the darkness with a man he trusted and once called master. Earlier I said I only cast an illusion on worthy opponents. But in this case, I am willing to make an exception. Tell me, where is the Lumen Histoire? Madara's Sharingan began rotating, although Makarov closed his eyes shut, refusing to give in. Where is it? Madara tightened his grip around Makarov's throat. He couldn't breathe, his face even began looking a little blue. Right here, a new voice replied, to which Madara looked to the source, looking stunned that he didn't feel this presence approach. He looked confused as all he could see was a blurry figure of a little blonde girl. The girl swung her arm, and before Madara knew it, he was blasted away to the other side of town by a golden wave of light. Makarov coughed while rubbing his sore throat. In shock he looked up at his savior. First Master, Makarov questioned, as before him stood the ghost of Mavis Vermilion. First, he saw you. It looked like he saw you and he heard you. I thought only guild members could see and hear you. I can make myself visible to non-guild members if I wished, and make them hear me. And with those eyes of his, he can probably see my energy reflection in this ghost form. If it weren't for us being this close to the Lumen Histoire, I couldn't have pulled off that attack just now. Mavis glared in the direction she had sent the ghost of the Uchiha flying, seeing Madara coming back from the distance. Makarov, quickly escape from here. Neither of us can deal with the likes of him, Mavis ordered, to which Makarov knew and without hesitation, lifted up a banner with the fairy tale symbol revealing a platform leading to an underground passageway. Makarov went in and closed the door behind him, and Mavis used magic to have the banner go back in place, and cover the banner with some melted rubble, making it even harder to spot. Mavis then vanished from the spot like a ghost, Makarov being safe, having installed safety measures, so that not even Itachi could find the Lumen Histoire with his Sharingan. And emerging from the dust left from Mavis's blast, Madara flew out, landing before the ruins of the Fairy Tale Guildhall. He looked around, while dusting off his shoulder pad. Madara scanned the area with his Sharingan, and no sign of either Makarov or that blurry girl. Where did they go? Teleportation magic. That blurry girl, her magic power seemed like a bottomless pit. Was she the Lumen Histoire? Then why can't I see her? Does her infinite power truly exceed beyond what the Sharingan can detect? Or is it something else I'm not getting? Madara clicked his tongue, and glared in frustration. Then he detected a familiar presence, causing him to look aggravated. This presence, Zirf. Madara looked slightly angered, clenching his fists at the thought of the Black Wizard. Why haven't I killed him again? Oh right, this cursed existence of his is a far worse fate than death, that's why. He also then detected something else besides Zirf and Acnologia. This presence, is that Itachi Uchiha, and another powerful presence is beginning to emerge. He looked to the distance where Fairy Tail was at this very moment fighting against the Tartaros Guild. Why not, might as well pay a visit. Since he is in no rush to get the Lumen Histoire just yet, I don't need to worry about it either. Besides, there are still things I want to do before the time comes. Madara smiles and vanishes in a flash, leaving only behind the scars the town suffered from his and Makarov's little skirmish. Makarov wobbly walked down the wooden steps to the underground passage, supporting himself up against the rail. He panted while holding his free hand to his broken rib. Stupid, I never imagined the gap would be that big. Makarov wheezed under his breath, letting out small grunts of pain. If he and the Alvarez Empire are after the Lumen Histoire, then we truly are doomed. Makarov made his way to a giant door, decorated with the symbols of fairies dancing in the woods, with a giant golden heart in the top center. The door opened upon Makarov raising his right hand, moving it in a triangular pattern that formed a magic circle. The door began glowing and pushed itself open. Unleash the light, if that is what it takes. Makarov walked in, being embraced by a blinding light. The air was rich, overflowing with dense layers of pure magic power. A single stone bridge leading to a single pillar in the room. And there on the pillar, stood a giant purple crystal, containing the naked body of Mavis Vermilion. The Lumen Histoire, also known as Fairy Heart. Makarov stared up at the crystal, as energies of light wrapped around his broken and injured body. He could feel the pain beginning to fade away, as his injuries were healed. Maybe, we could win if, no. Makarov quickly dismissed whatever thought he had. No, that would be too risky. Fairy Heart is a last resort for a reason. Whether the situation is that dire remains to be seen. Behind Makarov appeared the ghostly figure of Mavis. True, but you need to remain here. In case the situation changes, but I still feel the time is not right. Mavis looked upon her own physical body trapped within the crystal releasing such powerful magic energy, centering around her ghost form. I will keep watch outside, and give you the signal shall the needs to unleash my body come to pass. For now, we have to have faith in our guild members. Both Mavis and Makarov looked to the ceiling, wondering how their loyal guild members and comrades were doing. Both looking saddened that they couldn't help, and that they felt darkness from Madara, Zirf, Acnologia and Itachi beginning to overshadowing the light. Meanwhile at the ruins of the Tartaros hideout, the dragon slayers who were raised by dragons were incapacitated by a sudden increase of their heartbeats that froze their bodies in place. The majority of Fairy Tail taking care of the remaining henchmen of Tartaros as well as an army of Lamies. They all stared up into the sky, at the roaring black dragon Acnologia. Soaring in the skies above them, unleashing breath attacks to prevent anyone from escaping the area. And just by him flapping his wings while circling around sent such shockwaves that dust blew up around the lower levels of the ruins of Plutogrim, causing many of Fairy Tail's members to go into cover behind the rocks from the ruins, to not get blown away. And standing on the edge of the ruins of the Tartaros hideout, stood Itachi, glaring up at the black dragon. Despite his lack of emotions, he still remembered that day at Tenro Island clear as day. Never again. Itachi's cloak of darkness split open into demonic tattered wings, while at the same time unleashing such energy that caused Acnologia to turn his attention towards him. Oi, Itachi, don't tell me you are. Kisame called out from behind him, where Urza, Mira, Sela and Kyoka had even paused fighting each other at the sudden arrival of Acnologia. And Sasori, Kukuzu, Minerva, Happy, Panther Lily, Forsh and Lecter all just stared at Acnologia who now flew hovering over Itachi. Acnologia let out a roar and charged up a breath attack. Before anyone could stop him, Itachi soared up into the sky looking like a flying wave of darkness. Itachi, Mira, Urza and Kisame all called out. Although Itachi may have gotten stronger, was he enough to beat Acnologia? Itachi readied his right fist, expanding the darkness of his demonic claw into a giant fist. The brilliant light of Acnologia's breath attack blinded the others from seeing Itachi. Although then in a mere instant the light was shut off like a light bulb, as Itachi rammed his fist in an uppercut to Acnologia's jaw, slamming it shut. Acnologia flew back a little from the force of the impact, shaking his head to regain focus. The black dragon snarled at Itachi and let out a roar, recognizing this power emitting from Itachi. "It won't go the same way as last time," Itachi declared, and his body began releasing a brilliant warm red fiery aura. The aura intensified and expanded, taking the shape of a full-body skeleton that grew flesh, and then from the spectral warrior grew a set of armor. The armor wrapping around the warrior's body, a blazing fire emitting from its eyes and angelic-like wings expanded out from its back. The spectral samurai Susanoo warrior stretched his hand out, creating a giant red energy sword. The perfect Susanoo rivaled Acnologia in size. The Susanoo turned into a darker shade of red, being affected by Itachi's demonic darkness. The intensity of the aura released from Itachi and his Susanoo made one thing perfectly clear to everyone sensing this power. Itachi was equal to Acnologia in power. It seemed unbelievable for someone to rival a being of destruction. One would think everyone would feel a sense of relief from this, yet for some reason many of them were overcome with a sensation of fear. Kana looked up at the black dragon, and Itachi's perfect Susanoo, sensing one thing. Pure darkness, released from both of them. "What is this sensation?" Kana questioned as drops of sweat ran down her face from this insane sensation of pressure. "Even if it is Itachi," Warren uttered, his eyes widened with a pure look of fear. "He feels like one of those Tartaros demons." Elfman finished as no one else from the guild besides Urza, Mira Jane, Makarov and the ghost of Mavis knew what Itachi was. Everyone was left with a feeling of confusion as to why they felt this terrified of Itachi. Wasn't he supposed to be one of them? Their comrade? Then why did he feel so cold, so empty? While the members of Tartaros, the ones that were left anyway, felt a sensation of glee at this dark sensation. Mardgeir in particular looked up smiling. "Truly, magnificent. Our dearest comrade E has finally returned to us." Even Mardgeir could not foresee this event. "Still, why don't you have your book?" Mardgeir looked to one of the two books under his arm. "Not to worry, soon we shall wake you up." Mardgeir, despite his words, looked hesitant to activate the Book of E as soon as it is needed, that is. If one could see Mardgeir's expression, it could only be described in two words: uneasy and nervous. Acnologia roared at Itachi, and charged at the Susanoo. The Susanoo held its left arm out, and the moment Acnologia was about to attack, a giant shield came bursting to life, blocking Acnologia and reflecting the force of the impact back to the dragon's face. Itachi wasted no time and kept going with a brutal assault, creating rotating giant belts of Yusaka Magatama beads flying into Acnologia. The beads burnt brightly in a chain of explosions as they each clashed into the dragon. Acnologia's roars could be heard in between the explosions that brought him to the ground. Itachi stared at the smoke cloud where Acnologia was, his eyes lacking any feelings of emotion, not even hatred. He merely inhaled his breath and spat out a gigantic ball of fire through the mask of the perfect Susanoo. Itachi focused his Mangekyu onto the plummeting fireball, and the black flames of Amaterasu merged in with the fire. The mere size of the fireball made it look like a burning meteorite to the people below. A deafening roar surged through the mountains, as Acnologia with the mere flap of his wings blew the smoke away. The dragon directed his attention to the incoming ball of fire, and unleashed a mighty breath attack. The blue light of Acnologia's breath attack blinded the bystanders, that was Fairy Tail, as it clashed into the blazing ball of flames. "Incoming!" Kana shouted a warning to her fellow guild members, and they all latched onto something as shockwaves blew through, risking of sending them all flying away like a leaf in the wind. As it looked like Acnologia's breath attack began to overpower the fireball, black flames spread from the fireball and running down the blue wave of energy. The entire fireball itself had been burnt away by the black fire now making its way through Acnologia's breath attack. It became even obvious to the black dragon that those black flames were burning away his breath attack. Then in a shocking move, Acnologia merely flew through the black fire. Itachi looked taken aback by this, as Acnologia flew up to him, with the flames of Amaterasu burning on his black scales. Acnologia latched his jaw into the Susanoo right shoulder, digging his fangs through the spectral warrior. The perfect Susanoo, however, along with Itachi vanished like a mirage in a desert. The black dragon roared and swiftly turned around only to discover he was surrounded by hundreds of perfect Susanoo warriors, all with a sword in hand. The spectral warriors flew at the dragon, cutting their blades through his thick dark scales and stabbing them through his body. Acnologia let out pained roars, and for each time he destroyed one of the spectral warriors another would appear. "Ugh, these parlor tricks are beginning to annoy me," Acnologia spoke. For the first time in a long time he spoke. Eternal flare. Acnologia spread his mighty black wings, and the sky lit up as if there were 1,000 stars in the sky. These stars turned out to be energy waves plummeting down like a meteor shower. Each star blasted through one of the perfect Susanoo warriors, and for each one destroyed a new one appeared. Acnologia, having realized all this was a mere illusion, still couldn't comprehend how such a complex and powerful illusion could exist that it affected even dragons. Now then, to put an end to the legend of the Dragon King. Itachi's voice went around him like an echo, and suddenly the ground exploded in a bit of spiritual fire, and the blades of Susanoo warriors stabbed through Acnologia, pinning him down. The dragon could only grunt and growl, as he stared into the sky, seeing the moon itself coming crashing down upon him. "Pitiful toy of the Black Wizard. You won't break my mind." Acnologia charged up yet another breath attack to blast the incoming moon out from the sky. Pitiful. Itachi mocked Acnologia's attempts to resist his illusion, having cast it upon the black dragon the moment they came face to face. And only first activated at the moment Acnologia flew through the Amaterasu. Either your mind will break, or the Amaterasu will eat you alive until there is nothing left, not even ashes. Acnologia unleashed his breath attack, only to be halted with his jaw being slammed shut. And the illusion broke to pieces. Acnologia plummeted to the ground, smoke coming from his mouth from his own breath attack. The sensation of pain having knocked him back to reality. Itachi levitated with his perfect Susanoo over Acnologia. He broke through by causing damage to himself, Itachi uttered, seeing Acnologia pick himself back up, letting out a mighty roar signifying he was still alive. However, Itachi widened his gaze onto the black flames on Acnologia, and the Amaterasu spread more around the black dragon, beginning to burn through his scales as well. Acnologia, however, kept surprising Itachi as he flew towards Itachi like the pain from the Amaterasu weren't even bothering him. It was like he didn't care, powering through with one goal in mind. To destroy. Acnologia flew towards Itachi, who stood ready for the black dragon's incoming assault. Although, both only to be surprised as a figure of darkness clashed into Acnologia. Everything moved in slow motion in Itachi's eyes, as through the waves of darkness clashing onto Acnologia's head he saw one thing. A man with long spiky black hair, dressed in a black cloak with a bright red samurai armor underneath. The young Uchiha widened his eyes at seeing this figure, at seeing Madara Uchiha dropkicking Acnologia in the head. Madara's red burning eyes of Sharingan looked back at Itachi, with a smirk spread across the older Uchiha's face. Everything began moving back in a normal pace, as Acnologia plummeted back to the ground like a big black meteorite. Madara landed onto Acnologia, looking down on the black dragon with his arms crossed. "Yo, been a while, Acnologia," Madara greeted, earning him a growl of hatred from the dragon. "You," Acnologia roared, feeling a stingy sensation of pain from the Amaterasu on his back. Madara raised his brow and looked behind him, seeing the black fire on Acnologia's body. "Ho, Amaterasu, the strongest fire jutsu in existence. I didn't even notice it, what with your black scales and all." Falling into Madara's palm from his coat was a scroll. Madara opened the scroll and biting his thumb, drawing blood onto the scroll. He directed the scroll towards the fire, holding his available hand in the tiger hand seal. Fire seal. The Amaterasu was being pulled in by a blue surge of energy. The flames were pulled off from Acnologia's body and right into the scroll. But like any jutsu, it has its weaknesses. Madara declared as the flames had all been absorbed into the scroll, and new writings appeared onto the scroll. Madara then closed up the scroll and held it in the palm of his hand. And this sealing jutsu can seal any kind of fire, or so they say. The scroll in Madara's hand began leaking out black fire, to which he tossed it aside, letting the scroll burn away in the flames of Amaterasu that vanished soon after the scroll was gone. Impressive, you are able to control the Amaterasu to such lengths that it can even burn through the fire seal if you put your mind to it. Although, I would say that Sasuke Uchiha manipulated those flames better. Madara looked to Itachi, smirking as it seemed he struck a nerve at the mentioning of Itachi's brother. Acnologia let out a roar, to which Madara jumped off from the dragon's body. "You are welcome, by the way." Madara taunted the black dragon, earning him a snarl. "I'm surprised you haven't sensed it yet," Madara added, to which Acnologia seemed confused, and Madara's eyes diverted to the ruins of Tartaros where a bright light shined. A new powerful player is about to join in. At the ruins, Natsu folded over in pain, along with Gajeel, while Lucy, Levi and Juvia stood by helpless to help them. Lucy tried touching Natsu, but would quickly pull her hand away as Natsu's body was as hot as a furnace. Natsu screamed, and out from his body erupted a surge of fire that began taking shape. Everyone stared in shock, their jaws dropping at the sight, as a red-scaled dragon formed out from the fire. Natsu raised his body up, still on his knees as he stared up in awe. "I apologize for everything, Natsu." The majestic red dragon spoke as he rose from Natsu's flames. "I've been inside you all this time. This isn't the time to tell you everything. First I need to get rid of Acnologia." Natsu trembled, his face wet from the tears running down his face as he gazed upon the red dragon. "Dad," Natsu uttered, confirming it was his long-lost adoptive father, Igneel. Acnologia rose up from the ground as the red dragon charged at him, and an even greater feeling of rage and bloodlust came from Acnologia than ever before. A dragon stood before him, after all this time. Acnologia, blinded by rage, charged at the red dragon, both clashing their heads together while roaring. A red dragon. Itachi rose his brow at this new dragon that appeared out of nowhere. "Things really are heating up here," Madara hummed, looking amused at the gathering of such powerful beings in one place. Itachi averted his gaze from the battle between the two dragons. He looked to his true foe. Itachi's perfect Susanoo faded, and the young Uchiha flew down to face Madara. Madara analyzed the young Uchiha from top to toe, bringing his right hand to his chin as he hummed. "Not too shabby. Not too shabby indeed, for a mere child." Itachi merely narrowed his cold gaze at Madara, not caring about the words of his ancestor. Madara looked captivated by that killer stare Itachi gave him, grinning from ear to ear. "Oh, guess you are no ordinary brat after all. But to me, you are still a mere child." Madara released a dense dark blue aura of power, adding in the shaking of the space around them from the already ongoing battle between Acnologia and Igneel. It was also due to the clash of dragons, that the bystanders didn't notice this extra presence of power, thinking it was the dragons. "Well, do you want to test your abilities against mine? It really doesn't matter to me. It would be much more fun to fight you at full power." Madara shrugged his shoulders, and Itachi merely still glared at him, not uttering a single word. "What, lost the ability to speak or something?" The silence and lack of response of Itachi really started to make Madara feel actually concerned. For years he had heard from Zirf how he is the one being with power able to match his own. It's rude not to respond when someone's asking. "What do you want? Why are you here?" Itachi interrupted the older Uchiha, still glaring at him. And interrupting is even ruder. Madara smirked at the feeling of the tension rising, and at the feeling of Itachi's darkness pressuring the air around them. "I guess, one could say I was bored. And since I was really nearby, I figured why not pay my fellow clan member a visit." "Nearby? Why were you nearby?" Itachi added hostility behind his voice, yet Madara did not flinch. "What makes you think there is a reason?" Madara asked. "Knowing your type of character, you wouldn't stumble randomly into an area where I am just for fun. You came here for a reason, now tell me," Itachi replied, earning him a sarcastic clap from Madara. "My, Zetsu said you were a perceptive one," Madara commented, to which Itachi flinched at what Madara knew of the Akatsuki and of him. "I like that reaction. I know much more than you think I do, Mr. Clan Killer." "May I thank you on that, by the way?" That self-absorbed arrogant clan had it coming. Their foolishness knew no limits. After everything I did for them, and they betrayed me just like that. "I'm actually thankful for you and Obito on that one." Itachi grew tired of this idle chit-chat and as a result increased the intensity of his own aura. "Just answer me already." Itachi surprised himself a little. For some reason he didn't react to Madara's comment of their clan. Despite that event being such a crucial one in his life, in his current state he felt almost nothing of it. And what remained of what he felt were directed at a mere few individuals. Hatred towards Danzo and his father's 3 advisors. Sorrow over Azumi's death and the fate of Shisui, and of the pain he caused Sasuke. That darkness is really having an effect on you, isn't it? Madara looked somewhat disappointed that Itachi let the darkness have such an influence over him. Anyway, to answer your question, I originally came here for something, yet it seems to avoid my grasps for now. For how long remains to be seen, I suppose. Lumen histoire, Itachi concluded, being the only thing that could be here that would be of any interest to the older Uchiha. Just mere moments ago, I interrogated that old geezer of a guild master about its whereabouts. Yet some ghost managed to help him escape. Itachi flinched a little at that, with Makarov and Mavis instantly popping into his mind. That ghost, is she Lumen histoire? Do you know anything about that? I don't care, Itachi bluntly replied, not really all that interested or concerned about what the Lumen histoire was. Whether that was out of respect and trust in Makarov, or due to the darkness having swallowed up most of his emotions, remains unknown. I see. Madara vanished from Itachi's field of vision in a flash. Itachi stared with a look of awe at the sheer speed of his ancestor. Itachi swiftly turned his body around, clashing his arm into Madara's. Madara began increasing the speed of his movements, delivering jabs and kicks at Itachi, who blocked each of the strikes with darkness-covered body. Madara threw a punch, and Itachi caught it into his claw of darkness. Madara then in an instant pushed his own body forward, pushing Itachi's body back as well. Madara then followed by slamming his elbow into Itachi's cheek, forcing him to let go of Madara's fist as he skidded backwards. Not bad, Madara smiled as he noticed a paper bomb tag attached to his fist. The paper bomb exploded, creating a smoke screen around the older Uchiha. You're a quick thinker. Madara appeared behind Itachi, seemingly unharmed from the explosion with not even his clothing tattered. Itachi ducked from Madara's arm swinging over his head. Itachi manipulated the darkness of his cloak to push Madara back. Itachi raised his right claw, giving it a good swing, sending giant shuriken projectiles of darkness at Madara. Madara gracefully moved his body like he was dancing to avoid the projectiles. Itachi appeared before Madara, and slammed his giant fist of darkness into Madara, sending him skidding backwards, dragging up the ground beneath the sole of his feet. Itachi moved great speed, delivering jabs into Madara's gut, and spin-kicking him to his face. Madara fell to the ground, laughing as he did. Itachi wasted no time and threw another punch, although this time Madara caught it. I suppose Zirf was right, you are strong. But calling you my equal, may be a bit of a stretch. Then again, your potential might be worthy of being my equal one day. That alone is more than enough of a reason not to kill you after this. Madara declared, revealing identical black flame-like marks growing on the right side of his face under his bangs. I think I've seen enough, for now at least. Madara vanished once again, leaving a stunned, taken aback Itachi. Itachi felt a small sensation of relief wash over him, and a single drop of sweat dripping down from his chin. Guess he intends to be a bystander for a bit. Itachi eyed in a certain direction where he felt Madara's presence, along with a certain someone else. Meanwhile, Urza stood in shock, same with the rest within the ruins of the control room. They watched on at the two dragons battling it out in the sky, and Urza's senses were focused upon what felt like two waves of darkness clashing with each other. And from the corner of her eye, she saw a line of fire flying towards the dragons. Natsu? Urza questioned, noticing that it was Natsu soaring towards the dragons like a rocket. That red dragon, could it be Igneel? Happy question from all the tales he had heard from Natsu about his dragon father. Dad, we got to talk, Natsu roared as he flew towards Igneel, ignoring Acnologia like he wasn't even there. You idiot, not now. I said we'd talk later. Igneel looked to Natsu from the corner of his eye, barely able to dodge Acnologia's next attack. Let's talk now. Natsu latched himself onto Igneel's wing. Why did you suddenly disappear? And what do you mean you were inside of me? The whole time. Where are Wendy and Gajil's dragons? And what the hell happened on July 7th, 777? Tell me, Igneel. Natsu didn't care and wanted answers now. Quiet. Igneel flew over the chagrining Acnologia, catching Natsu into his claw, while unleashing a gigantic wave of fire onto the black dragon at point-blank range. The wave of fire looked like the sun itself, and the heat released from it spread even beyond the mountains. Itachi stared in awe, his darkness almost being blown away by the intensity of the fire. What power! So this is the fire dragon Igneel, Itachi uttered as he stared at the plummeting fire-covered Acnologia. That didn't even injure him. Igneel's loud voice reached even the ears of the young Uchiha. An Acnologia blew away the fire surrounding his body with a mere roar and a spread of his mighty wings. I'm fired up now. Igneel used Natsu's very own catchphrase as Akmelogiaros back into the sky, eyeing Igneel with killing intent. Natsu, you are in the way. Igneel eyed Natsu in his claw. In the way, that is what you say after finally being reunited after all these years. Natsu threw a fit, after all those years of searching, and this was it. He expected Igneel to give him the answers to all the questions in his head. I told you, we will talk later. You have belonged to one of those guilds now, right? Then I will officially hire you. Those words managed to catch the pink-haired hothead's attention. Igneel held Natsu out to look down in a certain direction, to Mard Gear. You see those books that guy has? Those are the books of END, and he bring me the book of END. Why would I do that? Natsu questioned. Because you are the only one who can. Besides, he is responsible for this whole mess. That should be more than enough of a reason for you. Igneel smiled on the inside, glad to see Natsu was still the same after all these years. And Natsu smiled on the inside as well, over how well his father knew him. That guy. Natsu glared at Mard Gear, who glared back up at them while smirking. Listen, under no circumstances are you to open that book, or destroy it. Just take it from him. Igneel seemed worried, his voice carrying a hint of unease in it when it came to that book. Which made Natsu wary of it, considering how powerful Igneel was, and if he sounded this uneasy about it, then this END must be really powerful. What's the reward? Natsu humored himself, seeing Igneel's reaction. What? Igneel's sweat dropped. Of course, I work in a guild now. I don't work for free. Natsu gave Igneel a sly smirk while rubbing his fingers together. Although what he wanted was something money couldn't buy, which Igneel knew what was. Alright, your reward will be everything you wish to know. Hey, I accept. Natsu smirked, seeming satisfied with Igneel's answer. Igneel threw his arm with Natsu behind his back, going in a baseball-like fashion. Go and get him, Natsu. Igneel threw Natsu, who soared down towards Mard Gear like a ball of raging fire. You just be sure to keep your promise. Don't go anywhere. Natsu shed a few tears that dried up pretty quickly from the wind blowing to his face. I won't, was all Igneel said before returning to his battle against Akmelogia. I'm fired up, Natsu roared as he glared at the smirking face of Mard Gear. And who might you be? Mard Gear smirked at the incoming Natsu. I am Igneel's son, and I will be taking that book. And stop face, Natsu declared, throwing a fiery punch to Mard Gear, who caught it with his bare hand. Both father and son mimicked each other's movements perfectly, as they struck their individual opponents. Mard Gear smirked, distracted from contacting his two remaining demon gates through telepathy. Ordering one of them to link up with the main Lacrima, to hasten up Face's activation, and Kyoko without hesitation linked herself to the Lacrima. Despite it meaning she would die, she would do it for their lifelong cause. Everything we do is for Zirf. Mard Gear, Sela and Kyoko all valiantly declared. Both female demons struck the two strongest female members of Fairy Tail with all their might. Having caught up to speed with their scheme, Urza and Mira retaliated. While standing in the background was Kisame, Kakuzu and Sasori. They sure seemed to have this covered. Kakuzu commented. Yeah, and things seems more complicated with Kyoko having speed up Face's activation by connecting it with her own life. Killing her might not help either and force a chain reaction of the Faces. Sasori analyzed the situation and eyed the giant Lacrima. Maybe, Kisame, Kakuzu, I might have a plan. Kisame and Kakuzu both looked to Sasori, knowing out of all the revived Akatsuki members he was probably the second smartest after Itachi. Kisame, you go and meet up with Itachi, clear out the remaining members of Tartaros and Mard Gear. Kakuzu, since you and I have worked a lot with Kyoko on this Lacrima and its connection with the Face project, I want you to cancel out Kyuka's life connection with it. That way we can be sure Face won't be activated. I will work as backup for the girls if they need it. Sasori whispered to them, and they both gave a nod approving of the plan. And Kisame quickly vanished to go and find Itachi and begin a purge of Tartaro's soldiers. Very well. Kakuzu stretched his arms out, latching onto the giant Lacrima in the sky, earning him a deadly glare from Kyoko, who also hissed at him with anger. You traitor, what do you think you are doing? Kyoko seemed worried, knowing how much work Sasori and Kakuzu had when it came to preparing this Lacrima in the Face project. If anyone could stop Mard Gear's plan, it might be those two. Bastard, are you willing to go against the wish of Lord Zirf? Sela also hissed at Kakuzu, taking a break from fighting Mira and Urza, who also halted with a confused look at Kakuzu. Just because that whiny brat gave me life again doesn't mean I feel like I owe him. In fact, I couldn't give a damn about him. And even if I did, I'm not going to blindly follow an overconfident demon like Mardgear, claiming all of this is the wish of Zirf. Kakuzu declared as his tentacles spread across the lacrima, beginning to move and make various symbols on the giant lacrima globe. To which Urza and Mira quickly caught on what was happening. Urza sliced her sword across Kyuka's gut, and Mira slammed her fist into Seela's face, to which both demons leapt backwards. "Curse you all," Kyoka hissed. Seela remained quiet. Things seemed to be going against them, and with 3 of their strongest members now siding with the enemy, they all only had one hope left. "It doesn't matter," Seela began to giggle, wrapping her arms around her body with a crazed look in her eyes. "Even if the Face Project fails, Isama's true resurrection is within reach. Humanity shall perish, one way or the other." "Seela," Kyoka uttered, looking a little confused, seeing as Seela a mere few days ago had an undying loyalty towards her. Whatever, let's end these humans." Kyuka's claws expanded and she charged at Urza, cutting through her armor so that it shredded itself to pieces. "Face won't fail, I will make sure of it," Kyoka declared, and the countdown for Face's activation went from 32 minuets to 20 in a heartbeat. "I won't let you." Urza entered her black wing armor and charged at Kyoka. Kyoka deflected each strike from Urza with her expanded claws. For each time their blades met, Urza's sword gained new cracks. Kyoka enhancing her powers with her curse by the second, going as far as needed until Face would be activated. While Seela in her Aetherius form traded blows with Mira in her Cetri Satan soul. Both fighters were exhausted, this being the 3rd time they had come head to head. Neither had enough energy to last that long. Seela pushed herself in hopes of reuniting with her beloved E, and Mira pushed herself to save her beloved Itachi as well as her family, the Fairy Tail Guild. Mira took a giant leap backwards, and Seela shot a bombardment of rocks, levitating them with such force it could penetrate steel itself. Mira used her speed to move past the flying rocks, although her concentration was interrupted by a sudden surge of pain going through her body. "Arg!" Mira screamed in pain as the mere feeling of the wind felt like getting tossed into razor-sharp blades. She wasn't the only one. Urza's screams of agony echoed through the room. While Minerva, Kakuzu, Sasori, and the Exceeds grunted or wailed in pain as well. "I've enhanced everyone's sensation of pain within this room. Although I put my main focus on you 3. Kyoka declared, looking to Urza, Mira, Jane and Kakuzu. "The wind itself should make your whole bodies burn with pain. Hey, I've been through worse." Kakuzu twitched his eyes in pain and kept on going with his goal of shutting down the Face Project. Urza." Mira looked to Urza, being bombarded with a surge of green energy from Kyoka. Urza screamed as it felt as if her body was being fried, the green surge of electricity from Kyoka burning into her body. Mira's focus was taken away from Urza, as it felt like her entire body was getting torn apart by a bombardment of rocks from Seela. "Lady Kyoka is quite something. With her curse power and mine, you are all done for." Seela smirked as Minerva, Happy, Panther Lily, Frosh and Lecter began choking themselves from the effects of Seela's macro curse. "My curse doesn't affect those 2 though." Seela looked to Sasori, who stood on the sidelines, and at Kakuzu, who was still attached to the lacrima. "This brings back memories, Urza, of that torture room in the basement. Sadly, I don't have time to play with you." Kyoka taunted and gave a flick of her claws with her gaze focused on Mira and Urza. "In order to complete the task given to me by Mardgear-sama, I need to eliminate Kakuzu first." Kyoka stomped her talon onto Urza's gut, making her vomit out a puddle of blood. "I shall make you feel despair, first I shall take your vision." Kyoka let out a sadistic laughter, making sure the last thing Urza saw was her smiling, laughing face. "Then your sense of touch, sense of taste, sense of smell. And your hearing, this is the last thing you will ever hear. Farewell, Urza." Kyuka's laughter fell on deaf ears for Urza, not able to detect Kyuka's presence despite Kyoka abusing her body. "Urza." Mira pushed Seela off to the side and rushed to Urza's aid. Before she could reach her, Kyoka looked to Mira and gave a flick of her claws. "I shall do the same to you." The next thing Mira knew, her vision vanished. She couldn't feel the air touching her body, she couldn't taste, she couldn't smell anything, neither could she hear anything. "Nice, Kyoka." Seela blasted Mira from behind with a wave of energy. To Mira, out of nowhere, her nerves began screaming in pain, and she with them. "Time to die, human." Seela looked in glee as Mira and Urza both laid helpless on the ground. Sela threw her right hand behind her back, and an eye opened in the center of her palm. A surge of darkness and a dark blue menacing aura gathered into the eye. Sela threw her arm forward, sending a powerful wave of energy blasting out from the eye in her palm. The wave incinerated anything that stood in its path and inched closer to the two mightiest women of fairy tale. Urza, Mira, Happy shouted, tears of sadness and pain from the effects of Kyuka's curse, running down his furry face. However, suddenly both Urza and Mira jumped to their feet and leapt out of range from the energy wave. What? Kyoka and Sela both looked in disbelief. Impossible, they shouldn't be able to. Kyoka was interrupted as Mira's fist slammed straight into her face. And Urza entering her flight armor charged at the shocked Sela, and two cuts appeared on Sela's back from Urza's blades. Lady Kyuka's curse failed. Sela quickly dismissed that thought. No, something else is at play here. Sela looked to the ones at the sidelines. Minerva, Happy, Panther Lily, Lecter and Frosh all looked in awe. Wait, where is? Sela looked around noticing a certain someone was missing. Sasori is gone. What? Kyoka looked in shock beginning to look around for Sasori, although the task was prevented as Urza in her flight armor moved at super speed, giving Kyoka barely enough time to deflect the strikes with her claws. Urza herself didn't seem like she could comprehend what was going on herself. All she could feel was that her legs and arms moved on their own. What is going on? It is like someone is moving my body for me, Urza thought, feeling a little freaked out over not being able to sense anything. I can't detect him anywhere. Where did he go? Sela hissed while blocking punches and kicks from Mira Jane. What is going on? Her fighting style is completely different from before, Sela thought, as the way Mira moved was that of a master martial artist. Mira delivered a spin kick to Sela's face, knelt down delivering an elbow strike to Sela's gut, followed by a 360 turn and a blast of energy sending Sela skidding backwards. My body is feeling pain from all this moving, but what is causing me to move? These moves I feel my body make, they are a lot similar to Oni-san's fighting style. Mira and Urza had the same thought, their mind instantly going to the hand-to-hand combat moves Itachi usually performs in battle. Hey, fools, Sasori is a puppeteer master. You are not supposed to sense him or see him. Kakuzu chuckled while he changed a few symbols on the giant lacrima all to diffuse the faces. Puppeteer master. Minerva looked confused at first, although then she saw it. Thin blue strings of pure energy attached all around Urza and Mira Jane's bodies. Sasori was hidden within a dark space, with a small crack of light. That light was how he could see the battlefield. He felt slightly amused over Sela and Kyuka's attempts to find him. One thing he was glad about Tartaro's fur, they weren't as good as the Akatsuki when it came to figure out their own members' abilities and skills. It made it easier for Sasori, Kakuzu and Kisame to keep secrets from the rest of the Dark Guild. I apologize for the pain that will follow with some of these movements. But try and endure, Sasori thought, knowing the effects of Kyuka's curse was still surging through his two new puppets. Sasori is making them use basic taijutsu forms to prevent straining their bodies too much. How considerate of him. Kakuzu chuckled a little condescendingly at Sasori, considering how he used to be far more ruthless even to his teammates. Now then, let's begin this puppet show. Sasori smirked to himself, and merely flinched his index finger. Urza jumped towards Kyoka, re-equipping into her Armadura fairy armor. She has quite the arsenal, Sasori thought, moving his right hand into a hand sign. Urza's sword began glowing with an overflowing red aura of the Ethernano blade. Utilizing the same principles as a chakra blade, made it easier for Sasori to have Urza using it. Urza felt nothing but pain, in her own magic power being utilized. This is the Ethernano blade. Just what is going on? Titania, can you hear me? Urza for some reason could hear. No, it was telepathy, allowing her to hear Sasori's voice. You are. Urza remembered their last encounter during the Nirvana incident, it wasn't a pleasant one. Good, now listen, I'm only able to communicate with you and the she-devil like this through my chakra threads sending my thoughts to you. I'm controlling your bodies at the moment to fight against Kyoka and Sela. Why should I trust you? For all I know you can be using me and Mira to kill our comrades. Urza didn't trust any of the former Akatsuki members except for the man who was like a brother to her, Itachi. Right now, you don't have much a choice. Neither of you do. I don't trust you either. Mira's voice now reached Urza as well, thanks to the mental link with her, Mira and Sasori. But I trust Itachi, So, I shall put my faith in you for now. But if you are lying, I swear nothing will save you from me. Mira boldly declared, to which Sasori let out a sigh. Man, Itachi, your woman is scary. Sasori lightly joked as he made Mira duck from an attack from Sela, while at the same time spinning her leg into Sela's, making her trip. And then Sasori had Mira raise her right leg in the air and slam it into Sela's gut, making the demon cough up dark purple blood. By the way, are you sure you can endure this pain for long? I'm fine. This pain is nothing, compared to what everyone else will feel if face is activated. And for my friends, I shall endure. Urza decided to like Mira put some faith in Sasori for now as well, plus like Sasori said they didn't have much of a choice in the matter. Mira countered blows from Sela, who was like a wild animal, charging at Mira. As such, her moves became more sluggish, and her stamina drained faster. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Sela kept on shrieking. Mira twitched from each blow she countered, feeling like her arms were about to be torn into nothing. If I remember right, Itachi had taught you a taijutsu move, right? Sasori asked Mira through the telepathy link. Yes, the Lion's Barrage. Although I call it Demon's Barrage. Mira replied as Sasori kept moving her body to dodge blast attacks from Sela. Good, I will give you some free will on movement here. On my signal, do your thing. Sasori ordered, which Mira didn't really like, but she had no choice. Got it. Sasori had Mira advance towards Sela, having her bend down a little to drag her hand up against the ground. Ouch, what are you doing? Feels like my hand is touching sharp blades. Gathering a distraction, Sasori replied. Sasori gave his right hand a good thug, and Mira blasted an energy blast to the ground, making a smoke screen. Arg, Sela closed her eyes as dust got into them. Now, Sasori signaled and Mira fell on her back and delivered a kick to Sela's chin. Keep it. Sasori instructed, and Mira flew up. With the help of Sasori, delivered a barrage of kicks into Sela. Not this again. Sela grunted and formed a speck of darkness onto her gut, lessening the impact of Mira's kicks. Die. Sela held her right hand out with a charged up sphere of energy. Halt with the kicks, Sasori ordered, to which Mira stopped. Sela blasted the sphere of energy, only for the blast to be intercepted by a black scorpion-like tail flying in between them. From his hiding spot, Sasori moved his hand swiftly, and Mira grabbed onto the scorpion tail to throw herself over it and thereby over Sela. Finish it, she-devil. Demon's Barrage. Mira plunged her demonic fire-covered foot right into Sela's gut, sending her plummeting down like a meteorite. It didn't end there, however, as Sasori had Mira gather her hands together, forming a dark energy that merged with the fire of her sea-tree form. Evil Explosion. Mira blasted a wave of fire mixed with her dark demonic energy, blasting it into Sela, who let out a banshee-like scream that was drowned out by the sound of the explosion. The smoke cleared, revealing Sela in her base form, her body trembling and with her clothing torn up. I can't move, Sela uttered, only able to stare up at Mira Jane hovering over her in the sky, with the full moon behind her casting an ominous light over her. Isama, forgive me, I'm not worthy after all. Sela shed a single tear, followed by her eyes closing for good. Mira landed onto the ground, and Sasori released her from his threads, to which she reverted to her base form. Also unable to move from all the damage she took, and having used up most of her power, if not all of it. Before Mira would pass out, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pity towards the demon. Found you. Kyoka charged at the spot where the black scorpion tail came from, only to find nothing, just a hole in the ground. He tricked me. Before Kyoka had much time to react, Urza appeared before her, giving her a cut on the arm. Kyoka took a giant leap back. That coward, where is he hiding? Kyoka hissed and scanned the area for any sign of Sasori, while dueling against Urza's fierce fiery red blade. Kyoka took every chance she had to wildly fire energy slice attacks around the room in an attempt to locate Sasori. Titania, Kyoka is right in front of you. Is there any kind of attack you can use to blast her? I'm in my Armadura fairy armor, correct? Urza's body leant backwards to avoid a slice from Kyoka. I think so. Is it the pink one with some wing decorations on it? Then, Urza smiled and held the tip of her sword directed at Kyoka, while charging up a green sphere of magical energy. Fairy Burst. Although Urza couldn't see it or hear it, her magic attack definitely made contact with someone. Kyoka was engulfed in a green wave of energy, blasting her to the other side of the room. Kyoka was gaping, her eyes pure white and blood running down from her lips. Kyoka managed to halt herself from falling, barely able to stand up on 2 feet, and with a look of pure rage. "You traitor! You will not get in the way of our desire. We shall return to our lord and master," Kyoka shouted out to Sasori, who didn't even flinch. "Time to shut her up." Sasori sent Urza charging forward, and Kyoka hissed, seeing Kakuzu almost finished with defusing the faces. "Damn it all." Kyoka roared and sped up the timer, making it go down 5 minutes every second. She flew high into the sky, and she swung her claws around rapidly, giving it her all, completely blinded by loyalty to the cause of Tartaros. Zirf, it was all for him, this was all in the great name of Zirf. For every strike, every sensation of the wind, every petal that hit her. To Urza it felt as if her body was being ripped apart by a wild beast. Yet she endured, knowing her body was probably just fine. Urza jumped over 2 of Kyuka's claws, and ran up them, having changed into her flight armor to increase her speed. Kyoka swung her left arm towards Urza, sending her claws flying at her like the talons of an eagle ready to catch its prey. "At this rate you won't get close to her. Do you have an armor to increase your strength enough to throw something very far?" Sasori asked through the telepathy link. "I do." Urza jumped off from Kyuka's claws, and Sasori had her do a backflip to dodge the incoming claws. Urza re-equipped into her giant armor, a massive golden-plated armor completed with a headgear with the appearance of big metal ears. She held her hand out, wielding a giant spear in hand, sending her magic energy into it, covering it with the red aura of Ethernano. "Show's over," Sasori declared as Urza threw her arm behind her back, and gave the red aura-covered spear a good toss, sending the spear piercing straight through Kyuka's chest, dragging out what appeared to be her heart with it. Urza regained her vision and other senses, and what she saw was a gaping Kyoka hovering over them in the sky, with a giant hole in her chest left by Urza's spear. Urza's armor vanished and she went back into her standard clothing, and then she passed out right next to Mira Jane. Face has been disarmed. Kakuzu jumped down from the lacrima that vanished, neither of them having time to notice each of the lights representing the faces vanishing mysteriously one by one. The ground beneath them split open, and out jumped Sasori. "Those girls, they are quite something." Sasori praised them, for being able to endure such pain from Kyuka's curse. Kakuzu have a nod in agreement, while the unconscious Mira and Urza were surrounded by Happy and the other Exceeds as well as Minerva. Watching from afar, Zirf studied the scene he had predicted would be the end of Tartaros. "So, you came to try and take the Lumen Histoire." Zirf felt the presence of Madara appearing with a gush wind, glaring at the black wizard with hatred lingering within his eyes. "You should have figured it out from the moment I arrived. After all, you are the one person in this world that knows of my goal." Madara looked like he was holding back his anger of attacking the black wizard. "And you should know why I came to you." "I do. You want to know what the Lumen Histoire actually looks like." Zirf kept on smiling, despite Madara now pulling him by the hair and holding a kunai knife to his throat. "Hey, if you wanted to you would have done it years ago." Zirf taunted the Uchiha, to which Madara held the kunai closer to his throat, piercing the tip into his neck. "Tell me, before I make you tell me the hard way," Madara threatened. "I'm sure you already have a good idea of it yourself," Zirf replied, and Madara thought back on that ghost-like figure. "A girl," Madara uttered, to which Zirf's smile widened, confirming it to the older Uchiha. "The Lumen Histoire, also known as Fairy Heart, is the body of Fairy Tail's first master, Mavis Vermilion." Madara lowered the kunai and released Zerif's hair from his grasp. "I see, so her grave on that island is actually empty. Then where is her body?" Madara asked, being the one reason he came here, thinking it would be easier to force the answer out of Zirf than playing hide and seek with Makarov. "I honestly don't know, I just know that it is hidden somewhere in town. It has quite the defense system. Mavis' endless magic power manipulates the people that enters the town, preventing them from being able to locate the source, her body. Her magic power messes with one's mind, even an immortal like myself, and even you cannot escape those effects. And before you ask, that magic power simply feels so natural that one won't even notice it messing with their mind." Zirf breathed in the rich magic air reaching them all the way from Magnolia. "So, that old dwarf is the only one who can show me where it is." Madara gritted his teeth in frustration over having wasted his time, ready to go back to find Makarov. Now, don't worry. I plan on going after Fairy Heart soon enough. And you get to help me get it." Zirf chuckled, his eyes beginning to flare red with malice. "And why would I help you?" Madara taunted in a snort as he crossed his arms. Because I'm planning something big. And you are a crucial part of that plan. If you want, you can try and obtain it for yourself, just know it won't be easy. Zirf stood up, turned his head to look at Madara, both of their red eyes glaring into the other's soul. And what is stopping me from taking it now? Madara challenged. Me. Zirf boldly declared and summoned forth a book that caused Madara to flinch. Zirf tightened his grip on the book, releasing an intense aura of darkness around it. Madara clenched his hand over his right chest, feeling like he was having a heart attack. So just be patient. The book vanished through a dark dimension, and Madara eyed it, seeing the initials EMU on the cover of the book. In the very next instant, Zirf hit the ground, Madara's left hand on his throat and his right raised with a dark aura leaking from it. Try that again, and I won't show you any mercy. Madara slammed his fist mere inches away from Zirf's face. Fine then, I will follow your plan, for now. But be warned, when I see my opportunity I will strike. Good, now, how about you watch the show? You might see something interesting. Madara released Zirf, and they both averted their gazes onto the ongoing battle between Tartaros and Fairy Tail. Further in the ruins, what remained of Tartaro's soldiers were splatters of blood and mangled body parts spread across the ruins. And standing in the center of it all, were Itachi and Kisame. Feels like the good old days, eh Itachi? Kisame looked to his best friend, who looked onto the dead corpses of the guards feeling nothing. To one who barely knows Itachi, he would seem like his usual emotionless stoic self. But to Kisame, he could see it clear as day. Itachi's face would usually look stoic, but his eyes would be burning with emotions. This was not the case here. Now his eyes seemed rather empty and hollow. Itachi didn't bother to respond to Kisame's comment, and merely ended the suffering of the still living guards. Then again, knowing the truth now, I guess those days weren't so good for you after all. Kisame tried to ease the mood, although it was the undeniable obvious that Itachi was slowly losing the struggle against E from within. As I remember, those days weren't always that bad. Itachi replied and began moving forward. You worried about Mira and Urza, about your guild? Kisame wanted to get some sort of reaction that showed Itachi still had some sense of control. Itachi didn't respond, he didn't even flinch. He just kept his focus on what laid ahead, more carnage. Gray, Itachi uttered, and Kisame felt a chill run down his spine. He turned around and saw the ice wizard wielding Devil Slayer magic. In his hands he held Natsu's white scaly scarf. Itachi. Gray narrowed his gaze onto Itachi's back, getting a good view of his new stage of darkness. Although as Itachi turned around, Gray's focus went directly to the black letter E stamped onto the center of Itachi's chest. The tension grew, as well with the chilling aura from Gray. I see, I suspected something like this. Gray clenched his fist, remembering his own vow upon his father's second death. Had it just been Itachi's old Akatsuki comrades, he would have fought and tried to kill them without hesitation. But this was Itachi himself, his friend, someone he has looked up to, someone he had too many good memories with. They were fellow Fairy Tail members, sons of Makarov. They were basically like family, brothers. Move, Itachi uttered, his emotionless gaze felt like it was digging into Gray's very soul. Gray didn't budge, instead he blocked Itachi's path with a wall of light purple ice. He didn't even make move, Itachi thought, a little astonished at Gray's growth in power. The sense of astonishment vanished quickly, and turned into a glare. What are you doing? I want to ask you the same thing. Gray replied, his gaze hardened onto Itachi, yet lingering behind those eyes was a feeling of sadness. Why did it have to come to this? Am I going to have to fight him? Were the thoughts that ran through Gray's mind this very moment. Also, I wanted to ask, what's going to happen now? What will you do? Knowing what Zirf made you into, what about our guild? Our comrades? Mira Jane, Urza, what are you planning to do about all that? Move. Itachi didn't flinch at Gray's questions, instead he dodged the question. Answer me. Gray roared, and chains of ice wrapped around Itachi's body, restraining him. Oh boy, this won't be good. Kisame rubbed the back of his head, wondering if he should pick a side on this matter. Don't get in my way, Gray. Itachi stretched his body out, shattering the ice chains into pieces. This is your final warning. Kisame raised his brow at this, and smiled on the inside. If Itachi-san wanted to, he could have put that boy in an illusion and just move on. Seems he doesn't want that though. Perhaps this is a way of seeing Itachi struggling against E from within. Kisame thought and looked intrigued at the scene taking place before him, wondering what would happen next. Go ahead, I dare you. Gray stared into Itachi's eyes without fear, his gaze alone could make hell freeze over. Black spots grew on Gray's right arm, spreading to his shoulder. Don't be a fool, Itachi uttered, able to put an end to this whole matter in a mere instant with his Sharingan. Hey, you should know by now. Our whole guild is filled with stubborn people. Gray smirked to Itachi, getting in a stance of his maker magic. I don't have a plan. Itachi bluntly replied, to which Gray merely flinched. I don't know what to do, I don't even fully understand what this means for me. All I know, is that in this very moment all I want is to kill Zirf, that is the only thing I can think of. It keeps repeating itself in my head like a broken record. Anything else doesn't seem to matter as much anymore. Except for, the darkness around Itachi's right hand opened itself, revealing his fairy tale emblem. The words wouldn't come out from Itachi's mouth, whatever was happening to his mind wouldn't let him speak such words. Gray lowered his arms, and the cold aura died down. His eyes burning with a sense of hatred, although focused on Itachi not directed at him exactly, Gray's eyes were focused on that E mark on Itachi's chest. And hated what it represented. However, his hate for the demons of the Book of Zirf did not blind him from Itachi still being Itachi, a member of Fairy Tail and family. The answer Itachi gave showed Gray just that. I get it already. We'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. Gray stepped aside and started walking ahead of them. First, we have something else to take care of. Gray kept thinking back on his father, and his death, the promise he made. Weighing the options in his head on how to deal with all of this. Take down Tartaros, Itachi uttered and followed after the Ice Wizard, with Kisame right behind them. Meanwhile, Natsu, Sting and Rogue had been fighting against Mardgear, and things did not seem to go so well. At first Natsu by himself in his Lighting Flame Dragon mode was able to go up against Mardgear, that is until Mardgear got serious and put the books of E and END down. At this point even the three of them at once weren't able to injure him even. Our purpose is to return to our Lord and Master, and put an end to his accursed suffering of immortality. That is the purpose of all of Zeref's demons. Mardgear, having gone through explaining his motives to Natsu, Sting and Rogue, started going on the offensive. Sting and Rogue were slapped back by giant plant roots, and Natsu ended up restrained in veins with a giant man-eating flower coming straight at him. Then the very next instant it froze, along with the veins and roots restraining Natsu, Sting and Rogue. What the ice? Natsu questioned, and suddenly felt something fall around his neck. He looked down in confusion and saw his own scarf. My scarf, I thought I found it. Natsu looked next to him, seeing the black-haired Ice Wizard Gray. If it is so important to you, don't lose it again. Gray merely flinched his fingers, and ice started to appear around Mardgear's arm. Who are you? Mardgear grew a little worried over this dangerous magic power that loomed over him in the air, and it was coming from this human. I am the Devil Slayer that came here to kill you. Prepare yourself, demon. Gray held his right hand up, and the black tattoo grew on his arm emitting a surge of a chilling aura. Devil Slayer? Sting questioned. If Dragon Slayer magic is for dragons and God Slaying Magi is for gods, then this. Rogue looked astonished at this discovery. Mardgear tried to make a move, only for Gray to freeze him in a pillar of purple ice. There is no mistake, this is Silver's. Mardgear released a surge of his power and shattered the ice containing him. I always knew he would betray me one day, although I never imagined it would be in this form. Fate is indeed amusing. Mardgear smiled and sent thorny veins flying towards Gray only for them all to be frozen. You think fate is amusing? Well, I don't think so. For my old man, I shall destroy you. Gray charged at Mardgear, although a new figure suddenly appeared and elbowed Gray in the back, forcing him to back away. The figure looked like a giant, demonic version of Uchiha. His hair wilder, his eyes red and his ears pointy, topped off with black spots of darkness around his body. That is Saber's former master. Natsu widened his eyes at this development. He became like Minerva made into a demon. Gray rotated his shoulder while glaring at this giant of a man. Made into. Wrong. I choose this all to become the strongest of all. Uchiha foolishly declared. For that you gave up on your humanity? Rogue questioned with a slight look of pity. That's insane. Sting followed with the same look as Rogue. With this new power I gave him, he surpasses all of the 9 demon gates. My newest servant, Mardgear declared, upon which Uchiha flinched. My name is known throughout the land, and you call me servant, Underworld King. Once I dispose of these pests you are next. Gyama powered up in an intense aura of darkness. Natsu leapt to him, and punched his face, yet Gyama didn't flinch. I'm not interested in you. Gyama declared, and Natsu was sent flying back. Sting and Rogue on the other hand, Gyama turned to the fearless-looking Sting and Rogue, aiming to change that. Everyone in this land knows you. A condescending voice reached Gyama, followed with a fist to his face that sent him skidding back. Sorry old man, but who are you exactly? It was Kisame, looking at Gyama like he was a joke. I should ask you the same. Gyama glared at Kisame, who smirked as he looked up into Gyama's glowing eyes of rage. I suppose I should introduce myself. The name is Kisame. Oi, Itachi, you want me to deal with this geezer? Kisame looked behind him, where Itachi in his cloak of darkness walked in, filling the air with a cold sensation of darkness. Do whatever you want, he is of no interest to me. Itachi walked past both Kisame and Gyama, who growled with rage and charged up a magic attack to blast Itachi. Only the very next instant, his magic vanished. What the? No good old man, you should pay attention. Kisame cackled while holding onto the bandaged-up sword known as Samahata. My blade here cuts through magic and chakra, and devours it. Kisame followed up with forming a hand seal as Gyama's fist was mere inches away from his face. Water style. Water shark bomb. A shark water avatar figure flew up from the ground, and blew up right into Gyama's face, sending him falling onto his back. Oi, you might be stronger than the 9 demon gates, but compared to Mard Gear, you truly are nothing. And I am stronger than Mard Gear. Kisame smirked while looking down on the astonished Gyama. You truly are a weak fool. Weak, you damn shark. I am far stronger than you could possibly imagine. Gyama jumped up to Kisame, raising his mighty fist at the shark-like demon. Man, you are delusional. I'll tell you what, I will show by defeating you with just one single attack. That should wake you up to reality. Kisame held his right hand up with his finger pointing upwards. Gyama glared at that finger with pure rage. One attack, you are the delusional one. Gyama swung his magic-covered fist at Kisame, who merely lifted up his middle finger forming a hand sign. Water style. Water prison jutsu. Gyama was trapped within a sphere of water, unable to move or focus his magic power. What is this? Gyama's voice could barely be heard through the water that began filling his lungs. Game over. Kisame cackled, focusing on restraining Gyama, who roared from within the water sphere, calling him a coward and to fight him fair and square. Yet Kisame didn't care. If Gyama was unable to break free from this, then he wasn't worthy of being an opponent. Natsu, Gray and Itachi stood face to face with Mard Gear, who only focused his gaze upon Itachi. I see, so this is your sleeping state. Quite something indeed. Mard Gear applauded, then he exploded with a sensation of power. His very body beginning to change, turning into what resembled a full-body black armor. With might demonic tattered wings growing from his back, he had entered his ethereous form. Although, I won't let you get in the way of Tartaro's victory. The era of magic will come to an end today. Itachi, Natsu, this feels bad, Gray pointed out, seeing as a dark mist began growing and envelops around them. Out from the mist came something that resembled dark spirits of the dead. Itachi remained unfazed and stared Mard Gear down. Memento Mori, this is my ultimate curse ability, that I designed to kill Zirf. You all shall no longer be neither alive or dead, only destroyed, become nothing for all eternity. Mard Gear chuckled, seeming to have no problem erasing even E's soul should survive this, no problem. But that other soul of the human should perish. The very next moment, Natsu, Gray and Itachi were surrounded by a giant pillar of those souls. The pillar reached far into the sky, even going in between the two dragons battling in the sky. Natsu. Igneel looked with worry as he saw the pillar of destruction. The smoke from the explosion cleared, and Mard Gear cackled at seeing no trace of those humans. I've won. Now all that remains is to fully revive E and master END. Humanity is done for. Mard Gear's smirk faded as he saw blood, dark purple blood, and a severed arm falling right before his very eyes. Mard Gear widened his eyes and looked down onto his left arm only to see a bloody stomp left. You designed that to destroy Zirf. No wonder he gave up on you. Itachi's voice came from the smoke, revealing Itachi, Natsu and Gray, who was covered in black spots of darkness, all surrounded by the red burning spectral warrior that was the Susanoo. Just like I thought, You are nothing but a bunch of broken toys he got bored of. Impossible. Even with that all of you shouldn't be. Mardgear halted himself, noticing the black spots on Gray. Don't tell me Silver's power. He had a way of defending himself against my ultimate curse. Mardgear, enraged, charged towards the three. You mere humans. Mardgear roared, although was halted by Natsu. You ain't gonna win. Natsu declared, having grown dragon-like scales around his face, and his arms also covered in those red scales. His power has grown. This is Dragon Force. Natsu roars, fire flaring intensely around him, burning brighter than ever before. Crimson Lotus. Phoenix Blade. Natsu clashed into Mardgear, the power of his Dragon Force lasting only a mere instant before he would run out. Mardgear coughed up a small puddle of dark purple blood. The demon shook of this shock and latched his claws into Natsu. You are going to have to do better than that. Hey, I'm not the only one you are fighting. Natsu smirked, to which Mardgear looked down in terror, seeing Gray wielding a purple ice bow and arrow. Do it, Gray. Ice Devil. Zeroth Destruction Bow. Gray's left eye flared in a glint of dark purple. Gray unleashed the frozen ice bow string, sending the ice arrow soaring into the sky. Mardgear was about to react, only then Natsu slammed his remaining Dragon Force fire-covered fist to the demon's face. Mardgear widened his eyes as the bow pierced straight through him. The ice expanded from the bow, tearing through his flesh. Natsu was released from Mardgear's grip and fell into the palm of Itachi's Susanoo and gently lowered to the ground. Reverting from his Dragon Force back to his base form, and Gray's black spots vanished from his body. Mardgear fell to the ground and the ice bow shattered. Too injured and on the brink of death, Mardgear reverted back to his base form. Impossible. What about face? Mardgear looked to the timer only to see it had frozen on 0:01. And no, what happened? My guess is that Sasori and Kakuzu disarmed all the faces. And of course, defeated Kyoka and Sela. Kisame informed the self-proclaimed Underworld King, and Anke the other Akatsuki members arrived in a flash. I assume things went well on your end. Sasori looked down on the injured Mardgear. What happened to Mira and Urza? Itachi instantly asked them. They are fine, those Exceeds and that Minerva girl are helping them recover. Kakuzu replied. Mardgear huffed on and looked on in rage, pulling his injured body up from the ground. Mardgear holds onto his stomp where his left arm used to be, blood gushing out from the hole left in him from Gray's ice arrow. Mardgear glares daggers at Natsu, Gray, Sting, Rogue, Kisame, Kakuzu, Sasori and Itachi. Vermin, you may have defeated Mardgear, but Tartaros is far from finished. Mardgear held his hand out, and one of his cursed vines reached out for a dusty old book, with only the black thick letter E on the cover. Time for you all to taste true despair. As the extinction of you fairies and traitors begins. Mardgear gave a maniacal laughter as he opened the book, making Itachi, who was about to move, freeze in his steps. His legs refusing to even budge, the darkness around him restraining his body from moving an inch. His mind feeling blank, unable to focus. Crap. Just as Sasori, Kisame and Kakuzu were about to make their move, only to be blown back by powerful surges of wind coming from the book. Awaken, E. The original Aetherius. Awaken the demon of extinction. Awaken and serve your one true master. Zirf. Mardgear chanted, and all that was heard was a heartbeat. The heartbeat started to get more intense by the second. They all turned to Itachi, the source of this heartbeat. Itachi-san, Kisame utters, looking frightened as the darkness around Itachi begins waving out around him like wild tentacles. Itachi's pupils shrank, sweat beginning to pour down from his forehead. Itachi brings his hands to his forehead, as he begins to scream in pain. His mind felt like it was on fire, burning away and into nothing but ashes. While at the same time slowly sinking to the bottom of the ocean, drowning. Itachi's breaths began to grow heavier and more incoherent, his very body trembling. Itachi, Natsu shouted as he and Gray jumped to him, reaching their hands out. However, they were both slapped away by tentacles of darkness. Itachi's screams were silenced as the darkness wrapped around him, trapping his body within a sphere of darkness. Both Zirfu watched from the distance with Madara, and Mardgear smiled with glee over this scene. The hell, Gray uttered as all they heard from the sphere was the beat of a heart, followed with the intense pressure released from it. Everything was shaking, the whole mountain where the ruins of Plutogrim laid were shaking. Natsu, Sting and Rogue, not understanding what was going on, could only look in confusion. While Gray, Kisame, Sasori and Kakuzu looked with what could only be described as fear. Both from the intensity of this pressure, and from what most likely awaited when Itachi would come out from the sphere. The hell did you do to my friend? Natsu results in charging at Marred Gear, who waved his remaining hand to the side, trapping Natsu in thorny vines. Natsu struggled to push through. He tapped into his newly developed perfect dragon force power, burning the vines into a crisp, and slammed his fiery fist into the weakened Marred Gear. It doesn't matter, you are all doomed either way. Marred Gear chuckled, as Natsu grabs onto his collar and begins pummeling his fist into his face. Stop. Stop whatever you are doing to Itachi. Natsu roars as he keeps beating on Marred Gear, who merely chuckles from every punch. I have won, Marred Gear uttered, and Natsu kept punching him, telling him to stop. Natsu. Gray calls out to the pyro. Natsu halts from punching Marred Gear and looks to Gray. Stop it, this isn't the time to be beating on a beaten foe. We have bigger problems on our hands. Gray pointed to the sphere of darkness containing Itachi, where the heartbeats started becoming more intense than ever before. Kisame, is there any way we can stop this? Gray looks to the shark-like man, who merely shakes his head in response. There is only one thing to say, we are dead. Sasori glares at the sphere while small drops of sweat runs down from his forehead. While behind them Sting and Rogue could only stare in horror, as the chilling energy of darkness released from the sphere overwhelmed them. Neither of them could move a muscle, it was like they had reached the bottom of an endless ocean of darkness. Neither of them could put this sensation into words. While in the distance, Madara had his eyes widened slightly at this sensation of power growing rapidly from Itachi. This power, Madara utters, his body beginning to tremble. Told you, E is your equal in power. Zerf chuckled at finally feeling the full force of his creation's power once more. Madara wasn't trembling out of fear or worry, far from it. Despite trembling, he had a crazed grin spread across his face. I haven't felt this excited since Hashirama. Madara looked with glee that finally a potential worthy challenge had arrived. Within the sphere, Itachi thought back to his confrontation with Zerf earlier about his powers. You are quite the special demon. I know a lot about your old world. Zerf's voice echoed through Itachi's mind. I assume you have heard of Ashura and Indra, and of the Sage of Six Paths. You can thank them for you having all this power. What are you talking about? Itachi heard himself question. Surely you know that all Uchihas originate from Indra's bloodline, meaning you all come from the sage himself. Which means there is a very tiny small amount of the sage's DNA within all Uchihas and Senjus. Zerf's malicious laughter echoed in his mind. What I did to you, was that I expanded upon that DNA trace from the sage to the point where it almost took over. The entire space around them went silent, the heartbeats had stopped along with the shaking. Everyone could only stand in silence as they looked at the sphere of darkness. The silence ended with the mere sound of a crack, coming from the sphere. The sphere had cracked in the top center, everyone gasped in anticipation and fear as the cracks expanded. Flakes of the sphere began falling, making a hole in the sphere. Everyone focused their gazes into that hole, where they saw nothing but darkness. Although then they saw a light, a tint line of purple light beginning to open. They all for some reason took a step backwards, their bodies reacting on instinct. Then in a burst the light opened, revealing to be an eye. A purple eye with a ripple pattern spread around it, to which the three former Akatsuki members widened their eyes in horror. That's, Kakuzu uttered in disbelief. Impossible, Sasori looked in disbelief, just how much could Zerf accomplish if he was able to give this to Itachi? That's how you awakened the Rinnegan, and gained a new form on top of it. And when your DNA began resembling more of the sage, you gained the remaining jutsu elements, and even wood style and ice. There is no mistaking it, Kisame uttered as a drop of sweat dripped down from his chin, and a smirk spread across his face. That is the Rinnegan. Despite his smirk, Kisame looked worried and at unease. Natsu and Gray flinched at that, having learned of this legendary eye from Itachi's own memories about a certain red-haired man with the same eyes. All they felt from within that sphere, and by the look they got from that Rinnegan eye, they all could tell. That cold emotionless stare, this cold terrible dark sensation in the air. The cracks on the sphere began growing, and flakes of the sphere dripped down onto the ground. There was no mistaking it, Itachi was gone, all that was left was extinction. And before I knew it, my greatest creation was born. And that's when I added the demonic power within your body to make you into a demon. Which is how you got those black markings. Zeref's explanation finished within Itachi's mind, now completely put to sleep, and a new consciousness rose from the darkness. The entire sphere shattered like glass, the dark flakes of it rained down around them. Natsu stared in confusion at the figure standing in the center. What's going on? Natsu either didn't know, or he refused to accept it. You idiot, don't you get it? Gray snarled, clenching his fists while his body trembled. He felt nervous, afraid at this new bottomless-like power of pure darkness. He is a demon of the Book of Zeref. Just like these three, Gray revealed to Natsu, Sting and Rogue, who all looked towards Kisame, Sasori and Kakuzu. You all better stay back, no telling who he is going to kill first. Kisame warned, wielding both Samahata and the executioner's blade in his hands, Sasori and Kakuzu standing in front of them. Kill. Itachi is our comrade, there is no way that he would ever. Natsu, enraged by that accusation, raised his complaints, only to be quickly shut down by Sasori. Itachi might be, but this is not Itachi we are talking about. We're talking about a merciless monster, His name is literally Demon of Extinction. Sasori declared, to which Natsu flinched, and slowly looked to Itachi with wide eyes, having realized the situation. The figure standing in the middle of raining flakes of darkness. His darkness still resembled that of his stage 3, with the black sleeveless, high-collared, open coat. Black horns, and black lines going over his eyes, and with the black E mark in the center of his chest. His arms and lower body still also covered in darkness, his hands looking like black demonic claws and his feet like talons. Itachi, or rather looked at the group with his cold Rinnegan eyes. His skin now looking pale white, and his hair having changed from black to white. And floating around him were 6 black spheres. This was E's fully awakened state, his ethereous form. E looked at the nervous-looking people before him, detecting that some of them were his fellow demons. Yet, that didn't seem to matter to him one bit. E tilted his head a little sideways, his ice-cold blank stare focused upon one individual. His eyes were focused on Natsu. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The next part will be out soon.